Hi, I'm Andrew Camphy. I run BetterSheets.co. We're going to learn AppScript. We're going to learn how to use AppScripts. In this particular section, I've put in a few videos that'll help you later on. They're not in any particular order, but they go through fundamentals of AppScript that I think are very, very important. Now, I hope that you've already done the Learn to Code course that I offer. It's about 38 minutes. It's only, I think, 6 videos, sorry. 5 fundamental videos and then a sixth one that goes off the rails a little bit and gives you some more insights. But Learn to Code is a very good introduction to just getting through all of the muck and problems and issues of like the fundamentals. Sort of one of the interesting things that I found when I was taking coding courses, programming courses, and learning myself is I got stuck a lot on the fundamental tutorials. I found them to be out of context. I didn't know how this would particularly be used later on. So here's the fundamentals in this particular course. I've tried to put them in the pre-course material so that when we enter the actual course material, we can just start coding right away. And I've taught this kind of a material a few times now, and almost every single time one of the questions comes up about parentheses, about function syntax, about variables, about camel case, dot notation, all sorts of little things that I end up spending a little bit of 5 to 10 minutes in the course sort of going away and teaching. So I've put these up front to, one, so that you have these fundamentals down when you start. But if you end up skipping them now and you go through the course and you're like, but what is this dot thing? Or why is there a parentheses? You can always come back to these later on and watch them, and we focus on just that thing. I also share with you some errors that might occur if you don't do it the way that AppScript wants you to do it. So just in case you see those errors, you can also come back and see, oh, is one of these errors in here? So this is all to help you, and if you have more questions, feel free to reach out, ask the questions, especially if you get further and deeper into the course and you're like, hey, what is this thing? I can always add it later on. So I really wanted to get you going. So yeah, enjoy the pre-course videos all about the fundamentals of AppScript here in Spreadsheet Automation 101. Hi, welcome. As with most of these videos, I'll be spending more time not in the sheet, but we'll be spending time in extensions AppScript. So let's go over there. And in this video, we're going to be talking about functions. This is just an introduction to functions and function syntax, but the very first time that we create an AppScript, like we open it up right here, we'll see function, my function, 2 parentheses, and then 2 curly brackets. And this is the typical syntax that you will write new functions with. So if we want to write a new function, we will literally write the word function. Then we can write a whole new function. Then we'll add the parentheses. And it'll add the second parentheses for you, so we can skip ahead and add curly bracket. If you add one curly bracket on your keyboard, it'll add the other curly bracket. So we'll just hit enter to give it a little more space, a little more easier to read. Now, about functions, I want to mention some very important things. One is that when we name functions, we want to name them with camel case. Whatever words we use here, start the first word in lowercase, then every word after that, make it so that it's a capital letter. This will help us read these better because all of these characters need to be all in one. It needs to be one no spaces word, but we can use multiple words if we use this sort of camel case. And as we do this as well, writing this, it helps us remember that all of the other functions inside of AppScript are also camel case. So as we will see later, except for the first one's spreadsheet app, which we'll get into later, also does not have a parentheses. But if we do get active spreadsheet, you'll see here that this function starts with GET, but lowercase g, and then capital A and capital S, active spreadsheet. Again, it's all one word, but it's no spaces, capitalized. It's called camel case, right? We have these sort of humps, and that's functions, right? Functions, a few other notes about functions as we get into this class and course is that if you can only name have a unique name for functions. You can't use the same function. Again, you can't name functions the same. You can call functions inside of functions. So you can say new function. And what this allows you to do is write a smaller function, sort of more specific, and then call that sort of any number of times. We also have one extra thing inside of functions that is absolutely amazing, is we have variables here. And we can add a variable here, and it can be used anywhere. So we can say, we can do some math on this variable. We can say a new, variable, new word equals, and we'll get into this later, but var, right? This var and this var, actually, variable. Can't use var. There are some saved words like var we cannot use. So variable, right? We can use something here, maybe a range, and when we type in range here, this range is this range. All functions need to do something. So you either are going to return some string or some math. So we write return. Then what happens in a function is we can return sort of anything. We'll get into variables in the next video. But let me just do var number equals, and we'll put another number 1 here. We can do number 1 plus 5, and we can return this variable number again. We'll go over variables in the next video, but we must return something. But also, we don't necessarily have to return something. We can do something. A function can absolutely do something. So we can maybe do a spreadsheet app. Again, we'll go into all of this. We can sort of do this, get sheet by name. Again, you can see all of the are camel case. This should be sheet 1 dot get range. And we'll do this. We'll go over this in detail later. But we can say in this range 1, 1, which is A1, set value. And we can set the value of number. So this variable number will show up here. Again, I'm going to go into variables in the next video. See you there. In the last video, I showed you functions, and in this video, I'm going to go into more details about variables. So again, we'll go over to our extensions app script, and we wrote this entire new function here. And let me just delete this and start over. So in our functions that we write, we can write a variable, and a variable allows us to basically simplify a lot of things, or it also lets us repeat things a lot. So we can do variable, and var is what we use here. We can also use const. You might see that if you're already copying and pasting code into your sheets and you see const and variable are very, very similar. In fact, they're almost the same. There are a couple of differences, but we're not going to go over that in this video. But we have a function, and we can have multiple variables. We can have, we can use the word 1 to equal 1. When we assign a variable, we use the equal sign. The equal sign here does not mean is equal to. What I like to do is I like to think of it as the word is. It is assigning the word 1 with whatever we put behind here. We can do variable 2 is, or equal sign 2. And then we can do some math in these functions, right? So we can create a whole new variable 3, that is 1 plus 2. Now, we've only been able to do this wording 1 plus 2 because we've assigned the variables 1 and 2 to 1 and 2. If we had perhaps done 3 or 4 here, even though the word is 1, it is assigned the actual value of 3. And then, just like we learned in the last video, we can return 3. So let's actually look at that now in our spreadsheet. So we got to save. Now all we have to do is call my function. And how we do that is we do equals my function with the parentheses. And we get the number 7. Why do we get that? Is because we've reassigned 3 and 4 to 1 and 2. If we do change 3 to 1 and 4 to 2, save that, we come back, it is now 3. So this function has given us a name to do, and we can get something in return. We can also use variables inside of the name of the function in these parentheses. That's what this parentheses allows us to do. This is sometimes called parameters. I might be using that word a lot. Parameters, when I refer to functions, variables here in this particular case. But these here that say var, those are variables. So these parameters could be 1 and comma 2. So we can add more than one parameter here that can be defined by different things. So we can change our variables 1 and 2 to 1 and 2, and actually we don't need any of these 2 lines. We can delete those 2 lines. Now this variable 3 is equal to whatever is going to be entered into our function on the sheet side plus the other one. So let's see what that is. So let's save this, and we might get an error, but before we get an error, we'll add 2 numbers. We'll do 1, comma 2, and ideally we get 3. But look at this. We can also do 11 and 22. And it's adding those 2 numbers together. So this is pretty simple math that we can do. We can also do very complicated math. We can do something like the function CPM, where we have a cost and views, and we can say variable CPM is equal to, or is, sorry, not is equal to, is cost divided by view divided by 1,000, right? And we can return the CPM. We can hit save. And now we have to change this function, CPM, 55, 45, and a bunch of numbers. And we can see we get some CPM here, right? This is very, very powerful because now we can create functions that have completely custom parameters, completely custom variables. We can return information. We can do math inside of these functions. And now we're going to be going into many, many more interesting things that we can do inside these functions. Welcome back. I wanted to take a short moment to talk about dot notation. This is something inside of AppScript that we'll see multiple times later on. We usually see it when we use the function spreadsheet app. You'll see that'll be the first time you see it. So we'll do something like this. Again, I'm going to go through this later. And when we get to the end of this word, we add a note, a dot. This dot is a period, right? In our keyboard, it's just a period. We can call it a dot. And what it allows us to do, especially in AppScript, we get this autofill options, which is really, really helpful. But what it allows us to do is take the spreadsheet app, the entire thing that it exists in, and we'll get into that later, and figure out what is the one thing we want to do from this. We want to do one action from this spreadsheet app. It gives us sort of a little bit of a way to go into the spreadsheet app. We'll use in the first time you see this, active spreadsheet. There it is. And then when we get to spreadsheet app dot get active spreadsheet, we can add another dot, and this allows us to see what's inside of a get active spreadsheet that we can use. We'll usually use get sheet by name. Again, we'll add another dot at the end, and again, we're inside of whatever the sheet is that we've added. So the dot notation, just I wanted to point out, allows us to go deeper and deeper into the functions. That allows us to do much, much more specific things. Dot notation is incredibly important because you might want to add commas, you might want to do other syntax, but in this particular case in AppScript, we're just going to be using dots or periods to go deeper and deeper into all of our functions. This also appears when we're ever parsing JSON or trying to get sort of a big text document, and we'll use the dot notation as well there to go deeper and deeper inside. And that's pretty much the basic idea. The dot notation goes deeper and deeper inside into the functions that you're using. Hi, in this video, as always, we'll go into AppScript, and I wanted to mention and stress camel case. I wanted to mention how important camel case is to our writing of functions, how many times we'll get into errors, and it'll be because of camel case. So again, camel case is this capitalization of words that are put together. It is a way to allow one function to be one word, get active spreadsheet, with no spaces, but we can actually read it. So the G in get, the very first word is lowercase, and then active, the second word is capital A. Active spreadsheet is capital S. This camel case allows us to read our functions much better, and it also allows the computer to know what it is. If we do something like this, get sheet by name dot get range, we're going to do 1 1. We're going to get into this really soon. This is A1, get value, and then we want to just return this value. Call it the 1. So we'll use this variable, as we said here, return. We don't need any variables up here. We'll call this 1. Or the 1. We'll be writing this out, and I'll be going much deeper into this later. But what this function is just saying it's called the 1 with the variable the 1, and we return the 1. The 1 is the first value in A1. So we put a value in there, equals the 1. Let's see that it works as is. It does. So what happens is if I don't have a capital B here, which is a tiny, tiny little mistake, I'll save it, and we'll go back to our sheet, and we get an error. This error, let me see if I can increase that size, says type error, spreadsheet app.get active spreadsheet, get sheet by name is not a function, and it gives us this line 3 to see. So we can use this error. Usually errors are pretty bad, but in our case, it gives us so much information that we can debug our code, and I'll be getting more into errors later, but this one error is really common when you don't use camel case. So we know get sheet by name is a function. We've used it, we're using it, it comes up in the autofill, but what happens is it is literally because it should be a capital B, not a lowercase b. It should be all lowercase, all camel case, not all lowercase. So we save it again, and this error should turn out to be not an error. Let's redo it, the 1, and we get no errors. It also gave us, by the way, line 3 here. This is line 3 of our app script, and it told us right in the error that the error is in line 3. Now, if it's some type of syntax error or like naming error, yes, usually the error is in exactly the place that the error shows up, line 3. But I will say now, and just give you a little bit of bonus thing here in this case video, that errors sometimes will error out, but it'll actually be in a line or some variable above it. So that error that you're getting, especially if it's some kind of naming error, will be fine. But if it's some kind of variable error, like gets null, is undefined, those are usually wherever the variable is, not in the error where the error occurs. So just a little note there. But just make sure you use camel case. One big thing is that these spreadsheet app, mail app, these large apps that include all of the functions in them are not actually camel case. They are, the first character is capitalized. And you'll see this in pink. You'll know if this is right or wrong if it's in pink or not. For instance, this is lowercase s. It's not in pink, and it is here. Just like in the last video where I talked about camel case, in this video, parentheses, we're talking about one very, very specific thing, but it's so, so important to detail. So again, we'll go up to extensions, app script. We have our app script that we've been working on here, and we will work on in a video or two. But I want to show you, I just want to point out all of the parentheses. In the function name, we always have the name of the function and then 2 parentheses, open parentheses and close parentheses. These are very, very important. They're almost like a parent warmly hugging all of their children, all of these little variables here. Like you can have 1, 2, 3, not toe, but 2, 3. You can have many variables inside of here, and these parentheses are like a parent. They hug their children. They're very, very, very important. You must have parentheses here, and you must have parentheses on function names, after function names, except almost everything gets a parentheses, except the first one. When we're talking about like spreadsheet app, mail app we'll get to, there's a few other apps that are included in AppScript that allow us to use functions within them. These do not have a parentheses. So if we have something like this, let's see, let's go back and make sure this does work, right? But if we use spreadsheet app, and we put parentheses here, let's see if that actually works. And let's see if we get an error. We do get an error, and what that error is spreadsheet app is not a function, line 3. And this is telling us something that we might not necessarily grok right away. Okay, we can look at line 3 and we're like, what is wrong with this, right? There's spreadsheet app, there's get active spreadsheet, I got parentheses on everything. And the issue is you got parentheses on everything. The first one, spreadsheet app, does not have parentheses. It's not a function of spreadsheet app, it is spreadsheet app itself. Maybe something like this, the one, if we take off parentheses here, we'll have maybe another error. Let's see if it changes that error. Nope, actually we don't get an error there. So we don't even, oh wait, we haven't saved it. Okay, we haven't saved it at all. In fact, we get the error in AppScript itself. It says syntax error, unexpected token. It has a curly bracket, line 1, right here in the file code.js. So we look at line 1 and we're like, well, that curly bracket is correct. Every single function should have a curly bracket. And notice here, I mentioned earlier that sometimes where the error says it is an error, it's actually just before that. And in fact, this is the error, right? The error is not the curly bracket itself. It's the fact that we don't have parentheses. So we add parentheses, open parentheses, close parentheses, and now we're able to save. Right? We don't get an error inside of AppScript. We don't get an error here in our Google Sheet. We now have a functional function with parentheses. I wanted to point out while we're here, though, that inside the parentheses sometimes does what there is, sometimes matters. So if we have like a variable range here, and we're trying to get like A1, and we're doing get range, because we can use a variable for that range, we're going to get an error if we run it from inside of AppScript. Let's see, we'll have to review our permissions. We'll do this again later. I'm not going to walk through this right now. Just get through this. We could probably get an error. Yeah, argument cannot be null, A1 notation. So what this is telling us is that actually right here, this line range, there's nothing there. It's a variable. A variable must be filled with something. So this doesn't mean that our function is wrong. It means that we're running it from the wrong place. So if we put inside the parentheses here, the one in quotes A1, that gives us the actual value of so now this range is A1 and this range is A1. So we get through this argument and the error by actually adding something that is defined, which is A1. But we do it inside of the parentheses here. Again, we're going to get deeper into this and how these variables work, and you'll see this multiple times over and over and over again with variables inside the parentheses, without variables inside the parentheses. Sometimes we want them, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's all sorts of things. So check out, like, if we use sheet 1 here and we don't use quotes, it looks pink, not that like brown, so that is going to be a problem. And let's see what we got here. And we got an error, and it says error, sheet 1 is not defined. Perfect, because we need inside these parentheses, we need it in quotes. Sometimes we need it in quotes, sometimes variables don't have quotes. But if we have actually like an actual string that we want, we put that in quotes here, just like we did here with A1 in quotes. All right, thanks for watching. Now on to more. I'm so glad you got through all of these videos. Bye.